some 12,000 miles. The ship has crossed the equator twice. Cape Town and Madagascar and Sumatra are far behind. Other ships join up, and we arrive at Yankee Station, off North Vietnam. The limited war we have come to fight is just over the horizon, in rice paddy and rainforest. In the weeks to come, the carrier will launch its aircraft against targets that melt into the jungle and take advantage of the weather. This moment is the culmination of all training, though it go back through all the years of a man's career. Back indeed to the primal education that qualified him to be here now, when ingenuity and courage count for as much as his airplane or its weapons or the odds on survival. In response to sudden invasion in Korea, United States carriers moved overnight to furnish close air support to our outnumbered forces. Carrier aircraft patrolled the Taiwan Straits, while the nationalist Chinese forces moved the civilian population safely to Taiwan. Off the shores of Lebanon, while the Marines landed, the presence of our carriers close by and their aircraft overhead was enough to preserve stability and order in that small nation. During the crisis in the Congo, an aircraft carrier served NATO forces as a depot for jet fuel supplies. From various places on the global sea, the United States moved our naval forces into Cuban waters. Russians and Cubans, intent on establishing missile bases on our doorstep, sensed their purpose. A show of strength was sufficient to keep the peace.
That should be no problem. I ought to be able to...
The greenies don't have anything.
I can stick them in here or on the elevator. But that's a good place for that floater back there. One of them.
Hangar flight. On this next respot, we're going to need 402, 310, and 408. 10 minutes to line, 10 minutes. Hey, Dave, did you get that 409 and your report on that tanker yet? 409, did you get a report on tanker yet?
On the heavies.
How about calling him?
Hey, Chief Williams?
Okay, will you tell them that we'll fly 713, we'll send 737 down below.
6 is down, 506 is down.
Today is Event 2 Bravo. Our mission will be an escort and flak suppression, a coordinated attack composed of 4 A-6s and 8 A-4Ds. Now, some of the things that we should be ever mindful about in this escort is a good lookout doctrine.
Make sure they have all the information on the board here. All right, now we'll get into the actual attack portion of the flight. We'll be proceeding into the target on a heading of 090.
The briefing is anything but brief. There is a great deal of information to impart. Just one of 10 going on in ready rooms throughout the ship.
Roll out and proceed on ahead, and this will be the airplane on which the others will rendezvous.
From a standing start, 20 tons of aircraft reach flying speed in 2 seconds flat. Every 30 seconds, another plane is sent aloft. 16 in quick succession. work your way through the valleys and over the ridges in daylight or in the dark of night. The Intruder will do this and find the target in all kinds of weather, where its radar system sees the terrain when the pilot cannot see it. On your way to mountain and jungle, missile sites and anti-aircraft guns. A radar man in the carrier CIC tracks you all the way. Information reaches here from every part of the ship, and from the Hawkeye, whose radar monitors all aircraft en route to the target and serves as the carrier's early warning system.
The Marine Corps concept of close air support goes back to 1927, when Marine aviators flew wood and fabric aircraft out of makeshift fields in Nicaragua. Panels were laid on the ground by a besieged patrol to direct airstrikes against the Moncada rebels. When World War II started, the Marines were ready, and Marine aviation was ready to support them. Aluminum aircraft had replaced those of wood and fabric, and radios supplemented the use of lay-down panels. Despite these refinements, weather was still a factor. Pilots and ground troops alike required positive visual contact before weapons were released. Despite the restrictions of weather, Marine close air support made significant gains. In Guadalcanal and Bougainville, Marines first worked a rough rule of thumb for bomb size versus distance to the nearest friendly. 1 yard for every pound of bomb. 100-pound bombs? The nearest Marine should be no closer than 100 yards away. On Mindanao in the Philippine Islands, units of marine aviation provided close air support for elements of the Army and guerrilla ground forces. Frontline observers vectored aircraft directly to immediate targets. The Marine Air Group at Zamboango on the southern tip of Mindanao received a unique commendation from the Army general commanding the troops in the area for their efficient and effective close air support work. The doctrine of the only American flyers to see combat between 1918 and 1941 had been proven. Close air support should be immediately available. It should be carried out deliberately, accurately, and in coordination with other organized units. It was a lesson well learned for another time, another place, Korea, and the bleak cold of the Chosin Reservoir. And always the weather, hindering marine aviation from flying their primary mission, operations in support of troop activities in the field.
Ringneck 315, I've got a target bearing 090, range 1,200 yards from beacon. We're the only friendlies in the area. Over.
Close air support. To the Marine Corps, it means one thing: the ability to support the man in the field, regardless of his location and tactical situation, and to provide this support in any and all kinds of weather. It means a network of communications and command channels so that the smallest unit operating in the field can get help when it needs it. Close air support that is delayed because of weather or poor communications is no air support at all. In the past, to get close air support in a situation of this kind would have required visual sighting and affirmative visual identification. In bad weather, close air support would have been ruled out, and other tactics would have had to be considered. Reinforcement from the ground, extraction by helicopter, or the Marine Patrol would have had to take fire until they could deal with it from the ground, or break off the engagement.
Roger, rolling in hot with Delta 2s. Ident your beacon.
Today, weather is no longer a deterrent. The Marines in the Intruder will never visually sight the pinned-down patrol, but will use sophisticated electronic systems to line up their target and release their bombs with pinpoint accuracy while flying over the cloud cover.
Bombs away, we've dropped 23. This is Ringneck 315. We have 5 left. Do you want another run? Now that's negative, Ringneck 315. That does it. Ringneck 315, you are clear this frequency. Thanks much.
A different time, a different place, a different type of war. This time, Southeast Asia. The Marines were involved. Their mission this time was to stop the infiltration of enemy troops into the south, to stem the flow of supplies and ammunition for those guerrilla forces already in the area, and to clear the area of hostile forces. To the legendary list of Marine Corps battles, the names of Con Thien and Quezon were added. Quezon, where 300 sorties were flown daily, one sortie every 5 minutes. There are not so many well-known names now. It's a grueling day and night operation in the air, going out to locations that are hill numbers or coordinates on a map. But the mission is still the same: support the Marine in the field. The mission is the same, but the way marine aviation performs it differs as much as today's aircraft differ from the wood and fabric planes of Nicaragua. Today's attack aircraft are crammed full of sophisticated electronic equipment. Crews can fly their way over hostile territory at any altitude, or they can fly along the very treetops. The terrain ahead is displayed on a television-like screen and enables the pilot to pick a route along a valley floor or fly between the mountains at night or in bad weather to avoid detection. Radar provides both crew members with a map of the area, and an airborne computer gives steering information to the pilot, as well as precise release of weapons. In close air support work, a near miss is not good enough. A near miss on the target could be a hit on friendly troops. Not all the electronic devices are in the aircraft. With an absence of hard radar targets, ground troops are using portable beacon transmitters in the field. The beacon writes its electronic signature on the airplane's radar scope to provide positive location of the forward air controller. The airplane's crew then computes an offset aim point to the target using the range and bearings the forward air controller provides. These forward air controllers are aviation people, bombardier navigators and pilots who rotate assignments in the field. They know the capabilities of the aircraft and problems of the ground troops. Like all Marines, they are professional in every sense of the word. It's a tough job, and they do it well. Each mission is planned in advance if it can be. If it can't be planned, if Marines are taking fire and need air support right now, everyone will have been briefed on the general conditions in the area. It started here, 16:30 every afternoon, 7 days a week. The general briefing for missions. The room looks pretty plush for a Marine Air Group briefing, but they had been at Da Nang for a long time. More typical surroundings would be a Quonset hut, 2 tents lashed together, or an aircraft carrier briefing room if the support missions were being conducted from a carrier.
Progress on over into 922.
All day, requests for air support have been coming in from field units. Troops under fire get immediate reaction. Other requests are passed up the ladder for consolidation. In addition to the primary mission to support ground troops, there are tactical targets to be scheduled. There are armed reconnaissance missions to be made, looking for movers, enemy trucks moving along ill-defined trails. And there are photo recon missions for BDA, bomb damage assessment. Priorities are assigned. But if you're pinned down and taking fire, these will be diverted to assist. And all the flight crews will be familiar with the general conditions. Individual target briefings are held immediately prior to each mission. Who will you work with? What are they doing? What kind of weapons will they need? What are the conditions as of right now? How will you contact them? These are the questions each crew needs answered before launch. During the briefings, and in fact around the clock, ground crews ready the aircraft. Today's attack aircraft are capable of carrying tons of bombs, 28 500-pounders. Different mixes are available for different missions. The ordnance crew carries out this task with an effortless grace born of experience. The flight crews of these attack aircraft, pilots and bombardier navigators, look young, but many of them have put in 20 or 30 missions a month. In addition to elements of the 1st Marine Division, these men provided close air support for the Army Americal Division. Their talk is the traditional talk of combat air crews everywhere, but flavored with terms of the electronic age.
I looked at this stuff, there's about...
A classic case. A Marine ground unit on radio relay duty was dug in on a hilltop hardpoint. Across the valley, there have been signs of enemy infiltration. There is a Marine patrol in the area. observation aircraft with an airborne forward controller has been working with 2 Phantom jets under the rapidly lowering cloud cover. The Phantoms have to stay low, keeping the ground in sight to observe the white phosphor marking rockets. When the weather closes in completely, they have to leave. This could have signaled the end of the air support, but it doesn't. The forward air controller on the ground has plotted the target coordinates and is prepared to direct an A-6 Intruder over the target. As the Phantoms are leaving, an Intruder crew is suiting up. There is much that has been done. There is still much to do. Once in the aircraft, the pilot checks it out with the help of the plane captain. At the same time, the bombardier navigator sets up the electronic side of a house. Nothing is left to chance. For a beacon flight in bad weather, when the crew will never see the target or the friendly troops, precision is the only acceptable standard. With their sophisticated electronic equipment, this crew could fly the entire mission without looking out the canopy. Today, they might have to. The forward air controller has been living with these troops for nearly a month. Having flown in the aircraft, he knows exactly the information its crew will need for accurate weapons release. The signal transmitted by the beacon will be picked up by the Intruder and enable the crew to pinpoint its position. The bombardier navigator, using this as a known location, will, with the aid of his airborne computer, be able to direct the pilot to the exact point in the sky for proper weapons release to hit the target.
Roger, 3 miles, cleared hot. That's Charlie. 368, 3 miles, cleared hot. Roger, 3 miles, you're cleared hot. Roger, cleared hot. 368, bombs away, switch is safe. Roger, bombs away, switch is safe. This was in support of 1st Marines.
The pilots never saw the target, but they were able to support ground troops accurately while safely above the clouds well out of reach of small arms fire. One mission has been completed. After refueling, the aircraft will be rearmed for the next one. However, flight readiness is more than hanging bombs, important as that is. Landing gear is cycled. Engines due for inspection or overhaul are changed on the spot. A radar dock provides facilities for complete ground checks and maintenance of electronic equipment. Some aircraft even get a quick bath. Like the missions themselves, this is a round-the-clock operation. Another mission, this time out in the valley. The pilot checks on a save-a-plane, a program that tells him where artillery is being fired. Flying through airspace full of your own whizzing artillery shells is considered bad form. Pre-briefed mission is timed to be on station if the patrol needs air support. A forward air controller is located to cover the entire action, talking to both air and ground troops. Again, the beacon will provide an offset aim point for high-flying intruders.
Yes,
160. Another objective gained. Another mission accomplished.
This windswept airfield is 200 miles at sea. 600 miles from the inland targets its aircraft have just destroyed. The presence of this attack aircraft carrier has been felt half a world away from the United States. Here, in a land bordering on the China Sea, the peace and stability of a small nation is being threatened. A place and a people our country is committed to defend because we are dedicated to the idea that peace is worth preserving.